Hello, so for today's video, I am going to show you how to create boundaries on Google My Map. So to start off, Google My Map doesn't actually have the option to create a boundary. So what do I mean by that? If I search up Missouri County, Texas, you can see that it gives me a point, but not the boundary across the county. You can do it manually, so there is a draw a line tool on Google My Map, but that would be time inefficient. And what I like to do is I like to import my boundary files by searching on the internet for open source files and import it that way. And notice that there are only certain files that Google My Map accepts, so be very careful of what type of files you search up. So now, let's say that I'm doing a project that requires the information on Missouri County boundaries and requires me to map it. So I go on Google and I search up key terms on Google to find my file. This is possibly the most time-consuming part of the whole process because some files can be hidden and some files may not be that good. So be very patient with yourself and know that you want the best data moving forward. So I have already done this process before, so I know what terms to search up. But in many cases, or in most cases, you won't be, or you won't know. So in that case, you'll just have to search up the terms, or the best terms that you can think of, and be thorough. So for this project, I searched up Missouri County KML. KML, I added this term to the end because it is one of the files that's accepted to Google Map. So this is the file that I use, Texas Counties ERCOT. So I download the file, and this is the code, as you can see. So what I do after I download the file is that I import it into Google My Map to see if the file loads. So on the left-hand side, if it says loading, it's a good sign, meaning that the file is compatible with Google My Map. Now, the only problem for this is that it's too big, but let's see what it shows. So if I zoom out a bit, you can see on top of the state of Texas, there are little squares. These are the boundaries of different counties in Texas, but not the counties that we want. So that means that we have to change the code file a bit so that Missouri County shows up. So we open up the code file that we just downloaded. And another point to note is that to open up these code files, I use Notepad, but you can also use different coding applications as well. And so I suspect that you'll probably use Notepad as well because this is one of the most common apps on our computers. And many of us, I know, are not computer savvy. So once you open up this file, the thing to note is to notice the general structure of the file or the code and notice if there's any patterns. So one of the first things that I see is that there are county names in this file. Hansford County, Texas County names, Sherman County, etc. So that tells me that if I search up Missouri County, I might get lucky, and I am. So this is Missouri County. If I scroll down a bit, I see coordinates. So I'm assuming that these are the coordinates relevant to the geographical boundary information of this area. And so that tells me that this segment of the code is likely relevant to Missouri County. So now I have to scroll up and scroll down a bit from this segment of the code to see where does the code end for Missouri County and where does the code begin for Missouri County. So I scroll down a bit, I see that this line has a different county name, Wilson County. That tells me that the code likely ends just above the Wilson County line, right here. And again, if I scroll up a bit, so this is where I know that the code starts. And I scroll up a bit, just trying to find patterns. I see that this is a different county name again, Galveston County. So it's reasonable to assume that this is where the code starts. Well, at least this is definitely where the code starts. And likely after, but definitely not before. So just to be safe, I'm going to copy all the code from Galveston County all the way to the end where I determined earlier, just before the Wilson County line. Alright, so I copy the code. And now I look at the beginning of the entire code and the end of the entire code to see the general structure and what I should keep. So if I look at the beginning of the code, I see that the first county name shows up here, Sherman County. That tells me that the thing below Sherman County is likely to be relevant only to the specific county. And the thing above Sherman County is likely relevant to the entire code. So this is definitely what I want to keep. And I use the same analysis at the end. So I scroll up to see where is the county name. And I see that this is the first county name that it shows up, Cameron County. And so experience tells me that some of this information below Cameron County is likely only specific to Cameron County, and some is probably necessary for the entire code to function. But I don't know which one's which, so I am just going to keep the entire segment of that code and delete everything from Cameron County, just before Cameron County, all the way to the Sherman County line. Okay, so I delete this segment of the code and I paste the code I copied earlier. So this shortened code should include the Missouri County boundary information and also should be small enough to load into Google My Map. Just to make sure, I search for Missouri County. To make sure that the information is there. Alright, it is. And now I save a revised file. So I save as. I name it as Texas County Videos 2. And it's very important that you save it as .kml, KML in the end, and as all files. Alright, so now I go into Google My Map. Let me delete the layers. And import my revised file. Alright. So it's loading, that's a good sign, meaning that the file is working. And now you see that there is a section of Missouri County. So I click Untitled, zoom in, and you can see that there is the Missouri County boundary line as highlighted in white. And something cool about Google My Map is that you can change the color of the boundary line. So say you want to change it to purple, and it changes to purple. You can also change the transparency of the region, as you can see. Also the border width. And so that is how you create boundaries in Google My Map.